One greetings from the high 10. It is Everyday Shenanigans. This is live number 2. Happy Saturday to all of you. You all have a safe and wonderful weekend. 5 weeks have passed since a call went into the dispatch of the Chatham County Police Department pertaining to a missing child by the name of Quinton Simon, barely 2 years of age. He was deemed deceased by the chief of police 7 days to the date on the 12th of October. On October 5th, he was allegedly missing. Chief Hadley came to the viewing audience and the public to say by tweet that they believe the child is deceased and the mother's the primary suspect, Leilani Simon. And in that short time span, there has been many rumors, rhetoric, social media platforms aiding the mother, the family, the grandmother, Billie Joe Howell. In those short 5 weeks, 5 narratives have been spun by Billie Joe Howell and her daughter. No information brought to us by the public, by the police rather, to the public, just that she's the suspect, prime suspect. Evidence that she put her child in a dumpster, and then the dumpster discarded to the landfill. Narrative number 1. Bubba Mouse kidnapped the child from the house. Narrative number 2. The child wandered off. Narrative number 3. Someone in need of a child who couldn't have a child came in and kidnapped the child. Number 4. Danny Youngkin bathed the children before they went to bed, allegedly. Spun by Billie Joe Howell to the YouTube platform via a brother, half brother. How many narratives? Bubba Mouse. Child wandered off. Person wanting a child. Danny Youngkin. And number 5. Now the brother Paul. Because when a YouTuber decides to use their platform to say the children were not left with the biological mother, then that only left Danny Youngkin and the brother Paul. And we're to believe that this brother Paul actually lived in the house. Spinning numerous lies of different versions of what happened to this child, one after the other. 5 narratives in 5 weeks. How many more narratives, versions are you all going to spin pertaining to the death of this baby? You both have knowledge that the child was dead before Chief Hadley brought this information to the public. Both mother and daughter knew the child was dead. The mother killed this child and discarded him in a dumpster. And the grandmother obviously knew, Billie Joe Howell, that he was dead by soliciting people for funeral donations, monies to cover a funeral that would never be anyway, because they were hoping the child was never discovered in the landfill. Mother acknowledging on YouTube that she has 2 murderers as children confirms she knew and knows that Quinton Simon is dead and that her daughter is the culprit of the death. Once again, how many narratives are you all going to spin about Quinton Simon? Number 1, Bubba Mouse. Number 2, he wandered off the child. Number 3, a random stranger kidnapped the child. Number 4, Danny Youngkin. Number 5, the brother Paul. Paul, if I were you, I'd run like hell. Because now that a YouTuber has decided to say the children were not left with Leilani Simon, then that only leaves you left. to be narrative culprit number 5. So you continue to stay in that house with these people because they are looking for a scapegoat, looking for another person to blame for the death of Quinton Simon. And so long as you stay there, you will be going down the rabbit hole with these people. Because anybody that would implicate a father who didn't even live in the same town, implicate a babysitter. Oh, I forgot about her. It's number 6, actually. How many people is it going to be? How many people is it going to be? Can't continue. This can't continue. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. 6 narratives. Spun by Leilani Simon, Billy Joe Howell, Bubba Mouse, Child Wandered Off, Diana McCarter, somebody came and took the child, Danny Youngkin, and now the brother Paul. See, you start to lose count. So who did it? Bubba Mouse has been extracted. Diana McCarter has been extracted. A random stranger kidnapping a child has been extracted. The child wandering off has been extracted. No mentioning of Danny as a culprit, he's been extracted. And no mention of Paul, the brother, watching the children or keeping the children or being a suspect, extracted. 6 narratives, 5 weeks. But the only suspect named, Leilani Simon. How many more narratives are you all going to spend on YouTube and social media of a culprit being involved in the murder of this baby? How many narratives are you going to spend? Billy Joe Howell, Leilani Simon. You two are guilty of harming these children and killing a baby. And it is time that you stand account for what happened to that baby and those other 2 children. Billy Joe Howell, you are neglectful of knowing that your daughter was unfit to raise all 3 children. You signed custody papers for some reason, which shows that you knew she was not capable of taking care of her children, yet you worked out of town knowingly, leaving her behind with those children. So you are guilty of gross negligence. You're also guilty of fraud, filing papers weeks before the child went missing for child support, knowing you have not been the physical custodian of the children. 2, you have acknowledged that the child was dead before Chief Hadley pronounced him deceased to the viewing audience and the public. Leilani Simon, guilty of harming your child and discarding your child in a dumpster. Both of you are guilty. And also You lied to the police department, filing a false report that the child was missing when you knew he was dead, Leilani Simon. So you're 2 for 2, you and your mother. Filing a false report and murdering a child, 2, Leilani Simon. Billy Joe Howell, filing false paperwork to the court clerk, not having physical custody of the children, being away from the children, that's fraud. Number 2, knowing the child was dead before he was pronounced deceased to the public and soliciting monies before he was pronounced dead. Both of you are 2 for 2. 2 for 2. And that's not including what else you've done, Billy Joe Howell, fraudulently, as far as FBI, IRS investigating you, which means you've done something fraudulently pertaining to finances. And I won't doubt that you've claimed persons, children in that household before they were removed from the house and the death of Quinton Simon. The reason you are now sloughing off items from your house for sale. Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you all in the viewing audience in the chat. 6 narratives in 5 weeks, spun to the YouTube nation by Billy Joe Howell on behalf of Leilani Simon, herself, via a brother and a disgusting YouTuber who has no respect and regard for human life, the sanctity of life, and the children thereof. 6 narratives. 6 narratives in 5 weeks. The last one is Paul, if I'm to use deduction properly, because you're running out of people to blame. Babysitter, random stranger, the child wandered off, Bubba Moss, Danny Youngkin. Now, Brother Paul. They were left behind. They weren't left with her, Leilani Simon. Then who were they left with? That leaves to Brother Paul. Can't be Dinah McCarter. She has her own life, own family. And nowhere in her commentary has she ever said she had custody of the children, was assigned custody of the children while Billy Joe Howell worked away from the home. So that only leaves the Brother Paul as your new victim to blame for the death of Quinton Simon. You all are shameful in your vow. Hello. You have no respect for human life because you don't respect yourself, because no decent human would continuously blame different random people for the death of a baby. And no decent human would stay away from the house, out of town, out of state, knowing they had full custody of the 2 children, 2 boy children, and then have the gall to go into a court to file for child support for children that you did not take care of physically. Your name is just on the legal document, Billy Joe Howell, as the custodian, but you were never there to take care of those 3 children. And anything could have happened to either child. And on the fateful day between the 4th of October and the 5th, something did happen to Quinton Simon. And I do believe it is malice and intentional homicide of a boy child. And you have knowledge that the child was dead before Chief Hadley pronounced him dead to the public. Your daughter knew he was dead because she caused his death and lied on a police report that he was missing. So you both are legally, morally responsible for all of the children and responsible for the death of Quinton Simon. 6 narratives, 5 weeks, 6 narratives, 5 alleged culprits, but yet only one has been deemed primary suspect, and that is Leilani Simon. Nobody else. Thank you, darling. No mention of the brother by the chief. No mention of Bubba Mouse by the chief. No mention of Dynamite Carter by the chief. No mention of Danny Youngkin by the chief. No mention of a random kidnapper, stranger, by the chief. No mention that the child wandered off. He has evidence that you, Leilani Simon, killed your baby and dumped your baby in a dumpster, which landed in the landfill. Nobody else. And to now implicate your brother, which you subtly said using a YouTuber via YouTube, he's the only one left to blame. Because if you want to extract Leilani Simon and Danny Youngkin, there's only one other person allegedly staying in the house, which would be the brother Paul. So how many more people are you going to implicate as suspects to the child's death? You're running out of people. Next, you're going to say the neighbor did it. The butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. The garbage man, he did it. The AT&T guy, he did it. How many people are you going to continuously blame for the death of Quinton Simon? You're running out of excuses. You're running out of co-conspirators. You're running out of people. You're running out of people. Just let me know when you're going live. You're running out of people. And as I said, Paul, you may be blind by these people who you consider your family. But when the implication came to YouTube the other night that the children were not left with Leilani Simon, that left only you as the next person on the chopping block. So you should feel some type of way towards your mother. You should feel some type of way towards your sister. And you should feel some type of way against this YouTuber who has helped aiding Billy Joe Howell, your mother, to aid these lies to the general public. She refuses to take responsibility for being the custodian of the children. She's also now throwing her daughter under the bus as a murderer alongside your brother as a murderer. That God has so kindly blessed her with 2 murdering children. And they sneakily added you in as a culprit, as somebody holding the children. You need to run like hell, because these people have no regard for life. They have no regard for family. They do not know what love is. They do not know what family is. And you are right smack dead in the middle of this farce with these people. And you need to know that these are not your family. They're not your family. They do not love you. They do not care for you, because they do not care for anybody. Okay, I'll try to join. So I assume now Paul is suspect number 5. Because when you count wandering off, that leaves him as suspect number 5. And you all are heartless and cold for your past behavior with the children. And to implicate Paul is even more dirty. But naturally, people have wondered, Paul, what do you know about October 4th into October 5th? Where were you when the children came home October 4th? What did you see and what did you hear and what do you know of? Are you the one with the app on the phone pertaining to the security system of the door being open between 2 and 5 a.m. October 5th? Were you awake if you were the one with the app on the phone? Did you go check to see why the door was open? Did you get up and close the door, lock the door? What do you know about the death of Quinton Simom? Are you also a guilty participant in knowing what happened to the child, but you have yet to say anything to law enforcement? Have you spoken to law enforcement? If you have, what did you tell them? Or have you sadly and pathetically aided your sister alongside your mother, Billy Joe Howell, in this farce and fake police report, fraudulent police report that the child was missing? Are you also a guilty participant of knowledge, of knowing what has happened to Quinton Simom? And if you are, then you are no better than they are. And I hope for your sake that you don't have knowledge that the child was dead before Chief Hatley pronounced him deceased to the viewing public. And it would be sad to be judged alongside your sister, your mother, and your brother who's incarcerated for murder. But as we know, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And we do not have to be a product of tainted parents. We do not have to be the product of tainted brothers and sisters. But so long as you ride the ride knowing these people are guilty of murder and you act as if they've done nothing, then that means you do not care. And you're condoning their behavior, which means you are also lifeless and also hopeless. So I pray that you don't have knowledge of the child's death before it was pronounced. I pray that you have no involvement in the murder or the discarment of Quinton Simom, because at this moment, you are the only one left to implicate, and in my view, was implicated as somebody at the house that took care of the children when Leilani was so miraculously removed as the children being left with her via a YouTube channel, Voices Behind the Wall. You all are very sad people. And I don't like linking people into groups of other people's behavior, but you do live in that house and you stay with these people and you congregated with these people during the messiness that was on the ground weeks ago. So you're complicit. Because if you did not want to be a part of the show, if that was you on the lawn, I do not know if it was, but that means you're aiding these people in the lives of a dead baby. And that is unacceptable. How do you all sleep in this house knowing Quinton Simom was murdered in that house? How do you eat out of that kitchen, cook in the kitchen, take baths, showers in the bathroom, wash your face, brush your teeth, comb your hair, wash your clothes, dry your clothes in a house where a baby was murdered? Because we don't even know how he was murdered. And I do not believe it was an accident, because if it was an accident, the mother would have dialed 911. Whether the child was dead at the time or not, it is the right and humane thing to do. It's called 911. That leads me to believe the child was intentionally murdered. Children are murdered every day in the United States by their parents and custodians, family members, friends, associates. There's no such thing as an accident, because a human who cares for life will call 911 or drive their child to the emergency room. They do not throw their child away in a dumpster, throw their child away out in the wilderness, throw their child out in a sewer, lake, pond, quarry, river, you call 911 or you drive your child to the emergency room. And what will be more disgusting than what we have seen from the behavior of Billie Joe Howell and her gross negligence of the children and filing fraudulent child support papers to the clerk, knowing she has not been taking care of the children physically, is that all of you had knowledge that the child was dead before Chief Hadley pronounced him dead and named Leilani Simon as the suspect to the general public. Thank you all so much for following the content. 6 narratives, versions in 5 weeks. Yet Leilani Simon is the only prime suspect in the death and discardment of Quinton Simon. You can spin all the narratives you want. You can continue to blame the babysitter. You can continue to name Danny Youngkin, Pookie, Ray Ray, Bubba times 12, phantoms, ghosts, butcher baker, candlestick maker. But in the end, Chief Hadley has named only one person, and that is Leilani Simon. Not a stranger, not a ghost, not any baby daddies, not the brother Paul, not a neighbor, but Leilani Simon. How many more narratives are you all going to spin on YouTube in the death of Quinton Simon? You are running out of people. And I told people this would happen, that the mother, Billie Joe Howell, would give up her daughter eventually. And she has done that. She has flip-flopped and turned on her, spun narratives to a YouTuber via a brother. Now admitted she has 2 murderers for children on a YouTube channel, crying excessively, spinning wild stories of her past, which have nothing to do with the child or the other children, blubbering, flailing around, wanting attention for clout. No mention of the children, what they were like. Not even a mention of the color of their eyes, the color of their hair, their personalities. Not even what they smelled like. How much joy they brought to them. Because in the end, it would be all lies anyway. Because Billie Joe Howell, you were never there. And Leilani was mentally and physically checked out when she was there. So in the end, the children had no one. And how lonely that must have been to be an itty bitty spider, craving love from the people that should love you and cherish you the most, and they don't even give a damn. And now they're running to YouTube to spin lies and narratives about themselves and the night of the crime for their own sick self-satisfaction and gratification for attention. No love for the children. There was never no love for the children. And that's why 2 are in foster care and 1 is deceased. And this happens every day in America. Utter regard for babies, children, the elderly, and adults alike. And I've always said that how you treat a person in death showed how you treated them in life. If you have no respect for the dead, you didn't have respect for them while they were living. And Billie Joe Howell and Leilani Simon and these relatives have shown they never cared for the children when they were living. And yes, to post a YouTuber's face on a banner with other criminals across your lawn driveway is utter disrespect for the dead and the living. It shows you never cared for the children and you don't care for yourself. 6 narratives, 5 weeks, only one suspect. Prime suspect, Leilani Simom. Chief Hadley, District Attorney, please put an end to this nonsense. Arrest both of them for the murder of Quinton Simom. Grandmother, fraudulent papers for child support, knowledge that the child was dead before you claimed him dead. Mother, guilty of murder of a said child. 2, filing a false report to the police department. 2 for 2. Put an end to this. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $Big Angie 129 Cash App. Thank you all for joining me. This is live number 2. If you see something, say something. Be a part of the solution and not the problem. Justice for Quinton Simom. The search will resume next week after the storm. Praying for a positive result. Praying for arrest of both Billy Joe Howell and Leilani Simom. Please go to change.org and sign the petition that my mod and myself have put together to get justice for this baby, that both the grandmother and mother pay back the $250,000 that the chief requested from the commissions board. Mandate that the district attorney make them pay this money back to the county. Rightfully so. Thank you for joining me. Have a safe weekend. This is Everyday Shenanigans. Go to change.org and sign the petition. Amen.